It's true, and believe me, saying it isn't easy. After an incredible 13 years immersed in the world of wheeler dealers, my time on the show is coming to a close. It was a turn of events that seemed to catch everyone off guard. One moment, Edd China was his usual composed self, expertly demystifying the intricacies of a suspension rebuild for us all. The next, he was simply gone. His presence vanished from wheeler dealers without so much as a heads up. For the legions of fans out there, this wasn't just a simple change of cast. It felt like something much deeper. Ed wasn't merely a co-host, he was in many ways the very heart and soul of the program. His demeanor, always calm and collected, his undeniable brilliance, and that quiet charisma he possessed drew millions into the fascinating world of automotive mechanics. His departure resonated not as a casting adjustment, but almost as a break in trust. The question that lingered in the air was a heavy one. What could possibly compel someone to step away from a show that was not only a roaring success but also deeply cherished by its audience, especially when it seemed to be at its zenith? What transpired behind the scenes that would lead Ed to walk away from it all? To truly grasp the significance of this moment, we need to journey back to the genesis of this unlikely partnership, the moment when these two individuals first took the automotive world by storm. Picture this: two men, a single garage, and the spark of a revolution. The premise was straightforward enough. Find classic cars ripe for restoration, guide viewers through every step of the process, and, crucially, make it engaging. However, what Mike Brewer and Edd China inadvertently ignited was a phenomenon that would not only define a genre but would forever alter the landscape of automotive television. Mike, already a seasoned presenter with deep-seated connections within the car industry, brought an infectious energy and a knack for sniffing out undervalued treasures. He was the master negotiator, the one who could seal a deal with a handshake and a charming word, making the pursuit of a bargain an entertaining spectacle in itself. Ed, in stark contrast, was an intriguing figure, a gentle giant standing tall at 6 feet 7 inches, his mind working with the precision and clarity of a detailed blueprint. Where Mike injected flair and dynamism, Ed brought an unparalleled level of finesse and technical mastery. Together, they were an unexpected but undeniably potent force. Indeed, their dynamic was a fascinating study in contrasts, a perfect mismatch that somehow clicked perfectly. The show's appeal lay in its methodical and authentic approach. Viewers weren't just passive observers of stunning transformations, they were actively learning alongside Ed. The cameras didn't shy away from the grime and the complexities. Ed's explanations, whether he was tackling intricate welding repairs or diagnosing the nuances of a turbocharger, were delivered with a clarity that was both educational and surprisingly calming. His workshop became a virtual classroom for anyone who had ever harbored the dream of breathing new life into a classic car within the confines of their own garage. It wasn't merely television, it was a masterclass in automotive restoration. For over a decade, this formula wasn't just successful, it flourished, cultivating a global fanbase that felt a genuine connection not only to the vehicles being resurrected but also to the unique camaraderie and balance between the two hosts. It felt real, comfortable, like eavesdropping on two old friends playfully bickering over a carburetor while simultaneously conjuring automotive magic. However, even as the show reached new heights of popularity and achieved cult status, subtle undercurrents of tension began to stir beneath the surface. Whispers of disagreements, of decisions being made away from the cameras, hinted that the pressures of success were beginning to take their toll. As the saying goes, every success has its price, and for wheeler dealers, the bill was coming due. The events that unfolded next would profoundly impact the very essence of the show. As its popularity soared, so too did the constraints. The move to America in 2013 wasn't solely about showcasing different cars, it was a strategic expansion, a foray into a new culture and, crucially, a vast new market. The United States had a deep appetite for automotive content, and wheeler dealers had already demonstrated its ability to captivate an international audience. This was their opportunity to elevate the show, to transcend its status as a beloved UK program and evolve into a global brand. But with this ambitious leap came the attention of major television networks, and with them, the inevitable wave of changes. Production budgets swelled, the sets acquired a glossier sheen, and the stakes were raised considerably, but so too was the pressure to perform. More individuals became involved, leading to more meetings, more executive oversight. What had once been a close-knit operation within a humble garage began to resemble the dynamics of a corporate boardroom. Suddenly, this unassuming UK show transformed into a machine that was expected to consistently produce, deliver, and entertain according to a rigid schedule. In this new environment, authenticity began to take a back seat. The longer, more detailed repair sequences, the very element that had distinguished the show and endeared it to its audience, started to be shortened, their depth and detail sacrificed for the sake of pacing and broader appeal. As the show evolved, a noticeable shift occurred. Edd's insightful explorations into diagnostics, his knack for problem-solving, and his ingenious engineering solutions began to be truncated or entirely omitted, making way for commercial breaks and a more rapid pace. The focus of the episodes seemed to tilt towards Mike's flamboyant acquisitions, often at the expense of Edd's quiet brilliance in the workshop. Keen-eyed viewers didn't miss this change. Online discussions buzzed with observations and comment sections filled with questions. Where's the detail? Where's the how-to? What happened to the learning aspect? From the perspective of many in the television production world, this was simply seen as streamlining, a standard adaptation for American television formats. However, for Edd China, it represented a fundamental philosophical divergence, a gradual but unmistakable erosion of the very principles that had elevated wheeler-dealers beyond the realm of typical car shows. It wasn't solely about the act of restoring vehicles. It was about honoring the process itself and respecting the intelligence of the audience. And when the studio sought to push these changes even further, proposing deeper cuts to workshop time, suggesting the outsourcing of labor, and reducing Edd's role to brief sound bites, he recognized that a crucial boundary had been crossed. Edd found himself at a crossroads, facing a decision that transcended mere employment. It touched upon his identity, his integrity, and everything he held dear as a creator. His subsequent choice would not only astound fans and reshape the show's trajectory but also ignite a firestorm of controversy that few could have foreseen. Then, Edd China broke his silence, and the landscape irrevocably shifted. The announcement wasn't delivered through the show itself, nor did it originate from the network. Instead, it came directly from Edd via his personal YouTube channel. There he sat, in front of a camera, addressing the fans directly. No elaborate production, no editing tricks, just Edd, a plain backdrop, and the unvarnished truth. His tone was calm and measured, yet every word resonated with significance. Edd revealed that the network, Velocity, soon to be rebranded as Motor Trend, intended to further diminish the mechanical segments of the show. Their vision was to modernize wheeler-dealers, reduce the length of the repair sequences, prioritize entertainment, and accelerate the production of episodes. To the network executives, this approach likely seemed logical. Less time in the garage equated to more airtime for Mike's engaging deals and audience-friendly drama. But for Edd, it felt like a profound betrayal of the show's foundational principles. He articulated that these alterations would compromise the very essence of wheeler-dealers. The technical depth, the hallmark of the show, would be lost, and with it, the educational value that had inspired countless aspiring mechanics worldwide. To remain would necessitate pretense, a superficial portrayal of expertise, a dilution of the soul of wheeler-dealers. Consequently, he made what he described as the most difficult decision of his career. He walked away. The video spread rapidly across the internet. Fans were taken aback but overwhelmingly expressed their support for Edd. In the comments, they lauded his integrity, many hailing him as a hero for standing firm on his principles. The message from the audience was resounding. Authenticity held greater value than ratings. However, amidst this outpouring of support for Edd, a darker undercurrent began to emerge. Rumors began to circulate, fingers were pointed, accusations were made, and the blame game was about to take a disturbingly personal turn. This was the beginning of the accusations that nearly shattered Mike Brewer's reputation. As the online community rallied behind Edd, a parallel narrative began to take shape, one that cast Mike Brewer in the role of the antagonist. In the eyes of some fans, someone had to be held accountable for Edd's departure, and Mike, being the remaining prominent figure, became the immediate target. The accusations leveled against him ranged from subtle insinuations to outright condemnations. He must have known, some asserted. He didn't try to stop it. He let Edd take the fall. Others went even further, alleging that Mike had been actively working behind the scenes to gain more control, quietly maneuvering to push Edd out in order to align with the network's new direction. That initial online fervor, fueled by speculation and raw emotion, painted a stark picture. While Mike Brewer consistently denied any involvement in Edd's departure, publicly expressing support and admiration for his former co-host, he found himself in the eye of a digital storm. The backlash transcended the virtual realm, morphing into a terrifyingly real ordeal. In a poignant interview, Mike revealed the harrowing experience of online harassment targeting him and his family. His daughter faced threats, his wife lived in fear, and ultimately, law enforcement had to intervene to shield them from what had escalated into a full-blown hate campaign. "I had to call the police," Mike recounted, his voice thick with emotion. "Someone said they were going to kill me." It was a shocking and disturbing turn of events. The repercussions of Edd's exit had mutated into something truly dangerous. What had begun as a disagreement over creative direction had now drawn blood, and Mike Brewer, regardless of any actual wrongdoing, was caught squarely in the crossfire. His reputation suffered a significant blow, his safety was compromised, and the emotional and professional scars would undoubtedly linger. To this day, no concrete evidence has emerged to suggest that Mike orchestrated Edd's departure. However, in the court of public opinion, the verdict had seemingly been delivered. The damage was done. And while Edd maintained a public silence on the attacks, never directly addressing them or defending Mike, it was the dealer, not the mechanic, who stood alone amidst the tempest. Despite this upheaval, the show pressed on. Wheeler Dealers, a globally recognized brand, urgently needed a new mechanic. But the question loomed large: could anyone truly step into Edd China's considerable shoes? Can a legend be replaced? Enter Ant instead. With his charm, charisma, and undeniable mechanical aptitude, Ant appeared to be a promising candidate to fill the void left by Edd. A former police officer who had transitioned into a car builder, Ant possessed a unique blend of real-world experience both under the hood and in front of the camera, a rare combination that producers hoped would resonate with skeptical viewers. His on-screen chemistry with Mike was positive, the restoration projects were solid, and the episodes maintained a smooth flow. Ant brought his own brand of energy, efficiency, and a fresh dynamic to the show. For a period, it seemed as though Wheeler Dealers might successfully navigate this transition. Ratings remained stable, and the core format largely persisted, at least superficially. However, fans couldn't help but draw comparisons. Where Edd had exuded a calm and methodical approach, Ant was characterized by his speed, energy, and constant readiness for the camera. Where Edd primarily taught, Ant leaned more towards entertainment. Some viewers embraced the new pacing and the more polished visuals. Yet, others felt a crucial element was missing, that quiet, thoughtful approach that had once made Wheeler Dealers feel like an accessible DIY garage where one could genuinely learn. For these viewers, the show was gradually evolving into more of a general car program rather than a show specifically for car enthusiasts. By 2020, Ant also departed. There was no major controversy, no dramatic exit, simply another change in the ongoing evolution of the show. Next came Mark Elvis Priestley, a knowledgeable, passionate, and inherently likable figure. With his background in racing teams and his infectious enthusiasm, Elvis brought both credibility and warmth to the workbench. Yet, even with his genuine skills and affable demeanor, similar critiques persisted. The mechanics were competent, the cars were impressive, but many fans continued to ask, where's the heart? The fundamental question wasn't whether these new hosts were proficient in their roles. It was whether Wheeler Dealers could ever truly recover the soul it seemed to have lost when Edd China walked out of that garage. And while the show continued its search for a renewed identity, attempting to recapture its former magic with new pairings, Edd was quietly rebuilding his own world, away from the glare of television cameras, but certainly not forgotten. In 2021, Edd China made his return, not to television, but to the platform of YouTube, where he could exercise complete creative control. No producers, no time constraints, no corporate interference, just Edd, a camera, and the pure, unadulterated magic of real engineering. He launched Workshop Diaries, a series that stripped everything back to its essence. This was Edd's domain on his terms. No network mandates, no flashy editing, no manufactured drama. Each episode offered a deep dive into authentic repairs, experimental builds, and thoughtful, detailed explanations. From electric vehicle conversions to gearbox rebuilds, it embodied the very spirit of the early wheeler dealers, fully restored. Edd tackled a diverse range of projects, from vintage Land Rovers to futuristic prototypes. Crucially, he didn't just show viewers what he was doing, he meticulously explained the why behind each step, breaking down the underlying logic. The tone was calm, personal, and deeply satisfying, and fans who had long yearned for that classic Edd China magic flocked to his channel. The comment sections overflowed with praise. Longtime viewers expressed a sense of returning home. The view counts climbed steadily, and subscribers poured in. Most importantly, Edd appeared genuinely content, back in an environment where passion and precision took precedence over deadlines and drama. He even revisited iconic vehicles from his wheeler dealer's past, cars that perhaps never received the comprehensive attention they deserved on the show. On his own platform, he could finally give these builds the thorough and loving treatment they had missed. And without the constraints of commercial breaks or editorial cuts, Edd could tell the complete story exactly as it was meant to be told. Meanwhile, Mike Brewer continued to hold the fort on television, keeping the Wheeler Dealers brand alive with new co-hosts and fresh projects. But as Workshop Diaries gained momentum and resonated with a significant segment of the original fanbase, a question began to echo across the community, a question that grew louder and more persistent with each new upload. What would happen if Mike and Edd were to ever cross paths again? Would it be a heartwarming reunion or a moment of reckoning? Years have passed since Edd's departure. Both Edd and Mike have moved forward, at least professionally. But for the devoted fans who meticulously followed every engine rebuild, every gearbox repair, every moment of banter, the story still feels incomplete. Not truly finished. Mike Brewer remains at the helm of Wheeler Dealers, adapting to the evolving landscape of television with a rotation of co-hosts. He has sustained the brand through shifting markets, changing formats, and the ever-present demands of modern television. He has become a symbol of resilience, always with a smile, always moving forward, always on the hunt for the next deal. The show may have a different feel, but its engine continues to run. Edd, on the other hand, has doubled down on authenticity. His YouTube channel, Workshop Diaries, prioritizes passion over profit. He doesn't chase fleeting trends or tailor his content to appease advertisers. He builds what inspires him, explains what he deems important, and in doing so, inspires a new generation of gearheads who value genuine craftsmanship above all else. His audience might be more niche, but they are fiercely loyal and hold his expertise in high regard. To this day, neither man has publicly addressed the other in any significant depth. No joint interviews, no heartfelt public statements, no dramatic reunions, just a lingering, complex silence, one that fans continue to interpret and speculate about. A silence pregnant with possibility and unspoken history. And yet, the community persists in asking, could it ever happen? Could they reunite one last time for a restoration project, a special one-off episode, or even just a candid conversation about what truly transpired behind the scenes? Because Wheeler Dealers was never solely about the cars. It was about two men with different approaches but a shared passion. It was about the joy of fixing what's broken, not just under the hood, but perhaps between people as well. And maybe, just maybe, that garage door isn't closed forever. Perhaps it's simply waiting for one final opening. So, what are your thoughts? Was Edd China's departure the moment Wheeler Dealers lost its inherent magic, or did it simply evolve into something different? Share your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of television's most talked about separations, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell.